Thanks for watching. This is video number 4 of me building an Axial SCX6 Jeep Gladiator. The Axial SCX6 standard comes like a Jeep JLU, so a 4-door or 5-door, whatever you call it, medium-sized wheelbase Jeep, which is great, but I wanted mine to look a bit different. So I wanted to have a Gladiator, especially seeing how big the SCX6 is and that it has split frame rails already. It really lends itself for some experimenting in seeing what can be achieved. The first thing that you need to do is sketch something out. So I sketched out this. There's already 3 other videos that you can check out on this playlist, I guess. So what you need to do is you need to kind of see what ingredients you have in a truck already, and then see what you want to keep, see what you want to ditch, and see what you perhaps need to add. Now I have a CNC machine, which is great. I also have a 3D printer, which is great. So those tools really help me in creating this truck that you see in front of me over here. You can of course also use hand tools. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Let's quickly go over what I did so far. I stretched the chassis. So I stretched the wheelbase with 72 millimeters. I stretched the body with 89 millimeters by also pulling the bumper back a tiny bit further. I added some spec RC wheels. I also, off camera this week, added some Team K&K hardware, so all stainless hardware throughout most of the truck. I still have a few nuts and bolts that I need to do, but overall the majority of them have been replaced. Really nice to have some stainless steel hardware to avoid stuff rusting up, of course. In the first video in which I really started to alter the body, I made a frame for the back. So I needed to sort of overcome that additional length in the wheelbase and also in the body. So I designed a couple of parts for that, machined those from a Delrin. Delrin is also known as acetal. We're going to talk a lot about Delrin as well this week. Acetal, it is a polymer, non-toxic, non-dangerous material to machine. So it isn't like a carbon fiber where you really need to wear like a respirator. Delrin is super safe. I still don't recommend snorting it or whatever, but if you do have a vacuum cleaner handy, just keep your workspace clean. But it isn't dangerous in itself to pulverize it with a router bit. So in this case as well, I went completely bananas with like a chamfered and beveled edges, adding a ton of detail and logos to whatever it is that I wanted to make. First video, I made this frame in the back. In the second video that you've seen about me machining parts, I added these plates to also bolt those fender flares to in the back. In this video, I will show you how I made some running boards, designed those from scratch, a roof rack. Initially, the plan was to print another of those front runner roof racks, but seeing that I have already done that with my regular SCX6 and you've already seen it, I decided to make my own for this one. Again, if you do want to have a ready design for your roof rack, go check out my mini factory, Night Customs. He has a really nice front runner roof rack. Night Customs also provided me with a design for this KC light bar that I added to my own design roof rack. But there's plenty of options, and if you get creative, there's plenty of opportunity as well to go and create your own stuff. Now, in the last video, you may have seen me add this piece to the roll bar. This is a pretty crucial part of bringing this whole truck together and making sure that it is as rigid as it should be, because this is still a heavy truck. When filming it, you don't want the body to flop around too much. I, of course, cut out most of the structural integrity by removing the rear, which leaves you with a body that is pretty flimsy in the back. To avoid that effect, I added this roll bar piece. I machined a track out of it, so I tracked the outline of the body, machined the track out of that roll bar so the body sort of slots into it. Now, it did need to secure that somehow. There's a couple of ways to do that. You can of course use glue and cross your fingers and hope that it will stay in one piece. But seeing that this is a quite big part, I wanted to have something a tiny bit more. So by adding a roof rack, I have 4 points in which I can attach it to the body already with some nuts and some bolts, adding a bit more length to my brackets in the back. I also made sure that I could countersink a couple of screws that I could then put through the roll bar into the roof rack. Now, there are a lot of details over here that are really easy to overlook, like for example this first bar. I wanted to make that line up with these plates over here. These plates over here, I machined these from some styrene just to cover up that cut window that I have going on the C-pillar. So this is A, B, C-pillar. I call it a C-pillar in this case. You can still see that this is a highly modified body, and I want to avoid that. So by adding this little plate over here, eventually once the body is all painted, I will put this on using some E6000 glue. It kind of distracts the eye, which in this case is really important. Now this line kind of continues over the roof rack, tying everything together, I think pretty nicely, kind of distracting the attention, because a lot of this stuff, when you highly modify a body, is about just distracting the eye. Another thing that I needed to do is make these running boards. Here as well, I want it to look like it is not an afterthought, but like this is really designed for the truck. I found a design online that I kind of liked for some running boards. I flipped that around and added my own little twist to it. But I did make sure that they stick out a bit more at these front and back doors, just to make them look like they are meant to be and like an integrated part of the truck's design. I also needed to ensure that I had these vertical parts, in which I machined a little Axial logo just to add a tiny bit of detail. So then you have a Jeep logo over here, Axial logo over there, HemiStorm logo in the back. I think all in all plenty of distractions visually to make this look like it could perhaps have been delivered like this out of the box. To add a tiny bit to that overland feel, I also wanted to have some mud flaps in the back. So these actually come from Losi 5. Seeing that Axial is now owned by Horizon Hobby, Losi is as well, this really doesn't look mismatched at all. It is all gathered under the same umbrella, these brands. So adding some Losi stuff, I think, doesn't hurt at all. So I added some Delrin pieces in that rear bumper as well to make sure I had something to attach those mud flaps to. And I'm really happy with the way that it has turned out so far. Some of this stuff to design it takes a bit of time, but I think the most important thing is to just get started, start sketching it up, and once you have a good idea, reconsider it a couple of times. So take a cup of coffee, perhaps you take a beer at like 10 in the morning. I don't, but take a cup of coffee, just take a break, have a really good look at what you're doing, and reconsider it a couple of times before you actually start machining it. You will perhaps need to ditch an idea a few times before you actually commit to it. That's also what I did, for example, with these brackets. These have been machined a couple of times before they looked nice enough to my standard, at least. Again, I don't have any type of education in drawing stuff up or machining stuff, but a little creativity can go a really long way. So far it is turning out the way that I planned. So I got the truck, I got the spare wheel, I got that roll cage saved, and this is actually pretty close to what I initially have envisioned. Next week I will show you how I make it shift shapes to this true overland version. So I also wanted to have a canopy, and I wanted this to be something that I can put on there and take off in a really easy and quick way. So I really want this Jeep Gladiator to be kind of like a shapeshifter. If I want it to be performance oriented, I can even take the spare wheel off. If you think that this adds a lot of weight, it really doesn't on a 25 or 30 pound truck. But you can take this part off, of course, to make it really a performance truck, or you can add that canopy to give it a completely different look. I'll show you really quickly how that looks. Next week you will see all the ins and outs of this, and I will also show you how to attach it, how to put it on, and what it looks like once it is all done and ready for paint. Because I'm really excited to actually get this going to the paint booth and sort of like disassemble it, strip it all down, wash that body, and then sling some paint on it finally. Project like this, don't rush it, just take your time, have fun with it. I know that there's quite a few people waiting for me to finish it and to paint it. I'm just taking my sweet time, just build it according to your own tempo and according to your own liking. More about the canopy next week. You will see how I did that. I hope this was helpful so far, If you enjoyed this video series, let me know. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section. If you enjoy these videos, let me know by pressing the like button. Share these videos with your friends. If you're not subscribed yet, please do. It is free, and I hope that I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.
Back on.